McGuire's making it look really sexy. Make me look good, man.
Join the team.
Woo! Hey team, this is the McGuire Review, and we just got back from Gen Con 2018. Bear and I did. Bear had a great time, didn't you, buddy? So did I, and we played a ton of games with all of our friends. Now, however, we do have a special spotlight here on Mythic Games. We sat down with our buddy Az, and he ran us through an awesome playable demo of both Solomon Kane as well as the new Joan of Arc. Now, we are very excited about both of these games to come, and you guys should be as well, because the Kickstarters were off the charts. So you can still check out both of those Kickstarters. They are over, but you can definitely go to their pages and see what was offered and what's out there. And it was super awesome. And I'll tell you, I don't think Joan of Arc had anybody concerned. That game looked phenomenal. Hands down, it offers a full skirmish mode. It offers a full campaign mode that's incredibly expansive. And it also offers a solo mode for portions of the game, which I'm really excited about. And it came with a ton of expansions. So that one, I'm super excited about what's to come with Joan of Arc. Now, Solomon Kane started off a little slow and then really picked up the speed through the end of their Kickstarter. And I'll have to tell you, team, it really is an awesome, awesome game. So we got to sit down and do a demo of Solomon Kane and see how the story mode works and how you play the different virtues that are surrounding Solomon Kane, and you help Solomon Kane go through his journeys and his quests that he's on, so he can have the best outcome depending on what the scenario you're presented with is. And it really is an awesome game. All the players are working together. You're kind of gearing up as you learn about what the story is and how do you sort of set the stage and when do you bring the virtues out onto the board and how do they impact the board and their surroundings when they come out. It really is awesome. We had a great time. And we wanted to give you a quick spotlight on both of those games. So I'm going to hand it over to Az, and he's going to run us through both Solomon Kane and then Joan of Arc, and we're going to come back and then I'm going to tell you what I thought about both of those games to wrap us up. All right, without further ado, Az, take it away, buddy. All right, guys, we have made it to Mythic Games booth. We're about ready to play the brand new Solomon Kane that just hit Kickstarter, was successful on Kickstarter. We're looking forward to that one. We're going to demo it. It's going to be sweet. We'll wrap up and I'll get back to you and tell you what I thought. All right, let's get down.
Here he comes, he's going to be all professional. Like, you guys on a Gen Con, I'm not going to touch. I'm talking with Seth and Devin. They're here right now to play this. Sorry, guys. No, what am I talking about? Hey, guys, McGuire Review. Look, thank you so much for stopping by. We just thought we'd give you a quick overview of the game. So we've got a prototype of Solomon Kane here that just finished on Kickstarter. Late pledge will be open later in August. We're looking forward to that. What we've got here is a little sample scene, actually. So in this story, this is a part of Skulls in the Stars. This is actually a short story by Robert E. Howard. Solomon Kane's objective in this story, and this specific scene actually, is dictated by the chapter cards that we have that tell you exactly what Solomon needs to do to get hopefully the best, middle, or potentially the worst outcome, depending on how well the players collaborate and work together. So Solomon here is trying to defend a lonely traveller who's lost his arm after being attacked by a tormented spirit, Gideon. And Solomon is being swarmed by dark shadows alongside the ghost as well, who's basically trying to get in there and finish the job he started before Solomon can intervene. So myself, Seth, and Devin, what are we doing? We're basically controlling cardinal virtues. So these guys are essentially representations of the Puritan beliefs that Solomon had. We have prudence, temperance, we have justice, and we have courage. And each one has an asymmetrical deck of cards, which is going to tailor completely how that virtue feels. Courage loves to fight, loves to get involved and help Solomon be strong. Justice loves to be fair, talk things out, try and negotiate and mitigate outcomes. And that's where the game gets really, really interesting, because we need to work together to change the stories from chapter to chapter to chapter. You will not follow necessarily the same path in the story. You might go from 1 to 2 to 4 to maybe 3 different options, depending on the decisions you take and how well you act. And at this stage, we're at the kind of point where we've arrived before the Travelers died, because in the Skulls and Stars story, Solomon is not able to save the Traveler. But by us doing a little bit better in early chapters and making good decisions, we have the opportunity to actually get in and stop this first ahead of time. And that's all done by us working together rolling these dice, which are essentially like our resources, and these resources power cards. These cards will allow us to move, interact, fight, explore. McGuire's making it look really sexy, make me look good, man. It's going to hopefully keep us one step ahead of the Darkness deck. The Darkness deck is your AI, because this is a fully cooperative game. The Darkness deck is going to be the deck that's going to be making the baddies work against you. So this is random every time. It's going to have different effects. You're going to be having enemies moving towards you, scouting for you, searching for you, ganging up on you. Sometimes they'll fight you. Sometimes they'll just simply wait until they can mob on top of you. And what makes the game really interesting and very different from dice rolling or different from just sources is this. This is the thing we're most proud of with Solomon Kane. It's called the Discovery deck. And every time you play an act in Solomon Kane, you have a different Discovery deck that's tailored to that act. And this will tell you exactly, there'll be cards specifically related to fighting the ghost and what happens when the ghost appears, what special rules it has. There'll be cards that'll tell you trouble for Solomon if he starts getting outnumbered, but if you manage to fight back hard enough, you have good successes, a few good tactical decisions, maybe you'll get a standoff, maybe you'll actually weigh up the foe and start to win the fight. And every time you have a exploration, a conversation, a combat, you'll ebb and flow through these discovery cards, learning more about the characters and having a kind of customized experience for each story you play through. That's it in a nutshell, really, guys. We'll probably come back in a little bit and show you a little bit of how a player turn actually goes, but that is Solomon Kane.
Let's kill those guys with swords.
Woo! All right.
Hey guys, it's Az here with the McGuire Review. No, wait a minute, we're with Mythic Games on the McGuire Review. Josh is back with us again. We thought we'd have a chat about Joan of Arc and give you guys an overview at home of what you can expect if you backed this gorgeous 16mm strategy game. So what we've got set up in front of you here is actually a historical scenario. The game has both historical and mythical elements, and what we have here actually is a French cavalry charge chasing down the supply run of a bestraggled and beaten English longbow force that are trying to get some supplies to a neighbouring village that is poorly defended and desperately in need. This is actually based on a war that actually took place, a battle that took place during the 100 Years' War called La Brossinière. If Leo watches this, my French pronunciation is terrible, forgive me folks. And what we're trying to do here essentially is have myself as the French run down the English, steal the supplies back and take them away over the course of 5 rounds. What the English are going to be doing is trying to get those supplies to the village before it ends up running out. Now when you play Joan of Arc essentially, you'll have over 42 scenarios that you can pick from, and every single scenario is completely different, which means you can have historical battles with siege towers and castles and everything you want to play if you like the 100 Years' War, but we also have mythological, so we have our dragons, we have our angels, demons, the beast, the devil himself, as well can be played if you're into more of the mythological and fantastical beliefs of what the people in the 100 Years' War era had. We're going to basically have a little bit of an overview of how the game plays, just to give you guys a quick feeling. It's actually really an activation, hex activation game where you use cubes, on which we have 4 different types. We have normal activation cubes, we have interrupt, we also have reactivate, and we also have a charge cube. And these are relevant, I'll just keep the camera there, George, so spin it round, to each of your player boards. And the idea is that you'll be using your activation cubes to choose different actions on your turn. You'll be building up experience and also myth or tactics tokens that are going to let you play one-off special abilities cards. So what do you do with these activation cubes? It's really quite straightforward. On your turn, and players do take it turn and turn about, you take one of your cubes and you choose an area on the board that you wish to activate. So for example, I've got a large area over here with my cavalry, and I've also got a civilian in there as well, plus I've got Ambrose Delore, my general, my captain here. If I want to activate this area, all I need to do is pop an activation cube in and declare what actions I want to do with each one of these units. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and declare a move action. I then can simply move units forward, but I have to be respectful of the adjacency and the area that I'm moving into. You'll notice that we have full hexes, we also have half hexes, and then we have these trio hexes. And you're going to have 8, 6 or 4 units depending on the size of the hex. So that's where the strategy of your movement and how you're going to split your force is really going to come into. What then happens is I continue activating hexes, and I'm not allowed to activate the same one again, but I can activate now a new one if the English player allows me to. The English player could actually play an interrupt cube if they wanted to steal the initiative, interrupt my turn and get an activation of their own. They could then declare a bunch of different things. For example, they could have their archers move and reform, they could have them take a shoot attack, and we have cards, if I get them up now, here we go. We've got cards for each of the units in the game to represent their ability on the battlefield. This tells us what kind of dice they use to attack and any special abilities that they get. So for example, the English bowmen are particularly good when attacking. if they roll shields, they actually still disrupt units and take them out of the game. And at the start of the game, they receive stacks that they can put down in a defensive formation to slow down cavalry and stop the enemy overrunning into their hexes. So this would be a great time for the English player to say, I'm going to play my interrupt blue cube, and I'm going to declare an attack with this unit onto the French cavalry to stop them getting in. So I've got 3 units of English bowmen there. All I would basically do is I would look at my attack card, which tells me I roll double yellow dice, which means I roll 6 yellow dice. I've only got 5 here because I got a prototype, so I'll roll these quickly. These are really prototype guys. These are not final quality, I'll be very clear. I rolled 2 disrupts and 3 blanks. I'll chuck 1 more in for my 6th dice, and a shield, which, because the bowmen are especially fielding for this, I get 3 disrupts. And that's a very simple attack for them. Now I need to look at the defense of the units that I have as a French player. And on this side, we've got some mounted knights. And the mounted knights also, of course, have their own card telling me their attack, any special skills they have, any special abilities, and in this case it's important that they roll a black dice in defense. So they've got, let me see, 3 units of knights and my hero, so I need a bunch of black dice. I need 4 black dice, and hopefully I'm going to get some shields. And I do, I get 1, 2 shields, but I also get a disrupt and a kill, which is basically going to do nothing in defense. So if I take my original roll, we'll block off 2 of those disrupts, 1 will go through. So I've successfully interrupted as the English player, and I'm going to take away 1 of these units and send him off to basically the disruption point, which means he could come back or he could end up dying. This unit may rally and may join the fight at a rally point, or he could be out of the game. If I do manage to successfully get a kill on this guy, I'm going to get experience, which is relevant to your characters who have these gorgeous portrait cards. They're all these extended ones, bigger than your normal units, and the reason is they normally have more special skills, more abilities, and they also have upgrade sides where you have increased abilities, increased special skills, and in some cases multiple different upgrade paths. So Joan of Arc, for example, could become holy or unholy depending on the kind of scenario and the narration you want to play. So that's a quick overview of the game. Bear in mind some of this is still prototype, but if you're interested in picking up a copy, you can get in touch with us at the Mythic Games Facebook. Right, Josh, let's get you playing, man.
All right, man. Thanks. Awesome. I hope you guys are excited as I was when I played these games, and after watching these short introductions that Az did for us for both of these games, Solomon Kane as well as Joan of Arc, you can just see how awesome these are. I mean, the miniatures. Okay, let's take a step back. Let's start with each game, and then I'll say a little bit about each game and kind of how I felt as I was playing the game and what I walked away with. All right, so we started with Solomon Kane. Sitting down to the table, immediately I was impressed with the quality of the miniatures. The miniatures are really, really nice. And what we had on the table were the production plastic miniatures for both games. So it wasn't like they had just a bunch of fancy resin stuff out and we weren't able to see what it's really going to look like in production. There were plastic miniatures that were out for both games, and they absolutely looked awesome. The detail was really, really good. The sculpting was good. All the poses looked very, very lifelike. So from a miniatures perspective, if you're a miniatures painter or a miniatures person, those are really going to be appealing to you once that game is delivered. All right? Now, outside of the awesome miniatures, and I will say at one point, only because we got so into this scenario that we were playing through, Az did go to the case and bring out the resin sculpts for a couple of the virtues. I think it was Justice and... Oh, what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was, but one of them was Justice with the scales because it was very delicate the way it's made because it was resin as of right now. But one of them was Justice that came out. Absolutely off the charts, and the paint job on these were incredible. So whoever's doing their artwork on their paint jobs, kudos to you, buddy, because that paint is phenomenal. Both games they had in the cases, actually at the booth. Okay, so we're playing the game, we're going through the story, and the story is basically there's this noise that Solomon Kane hears, the scream that's off in the distance, and that kind of starts the story. And it's like, okay, what do you do to gear up? First, it's like, do you actually go after the sound? Do you ignore it? What is it that you're going to do? So you're going to go through these scenario cards that are on the table, and you're going to be trying to put light on the cards, and there is a condition as you go through the game where if you have a certain amount of light that you're able to put on these cards, it benefits you as you go to card, and it allows you to kind of accomplish each one of those cards more effectively. So we're working on that as a team, and again, it's a fully cooperative game, so there's 4 of us playing, and we're all working together, rolling dice, and I love this mechanic where On your turn, you'll roll dice, and you'll be able to keep the dice that you need. And on your player board, on your virtue board, you'll have different things that each one of the virtues are able to do. And you'll need certain types of dice to be able to do that. You'll also have cards that will be out in front of you. And those cards have little spots for those dice as well. So you can decide, do I need to do something that the virtue can just do, or I want to take an ability of one of these cards that are out, or one of my friends that I'm playing with, do they need something from the dice roll? So there's this lovely mechanic of being able to roll the dice and then allocate those dice to yourself, put them in reserve, or put them directly on a card to activate, or donate them to another player, and each player has 2 spots on their board for donated dice. And that's a really nice mechanic as you're playing over the course of a round to be able to program ahead and think ahead. What do we really need to do over the course of this round, and how can we allocate our dice out with every single person's turn, their roll, to not only benefit what maybe you as just a player want to do, but help the other folks in your party once they get to their turn to be able to do something, because it's completely a cooperative game. So I love Solomon Kane because of that. They really executed well on that cooperative gameplay. And there's zero downtime, team. I mean, you are, the entire time, you're talking, you're rolling dice, you're moving, you're strategizing on what you're going to do. And, is it going to be, you're going to do this your turn? You're talking about your turn order, because every round, the group will determine the turn order as well. That's not done on a die. You will have discussion and determine, okay, I'll go first, you go second, you go third, you go fourth. And you may want to do that based on the cards that you have put out on the board, your ability cards, or just the abilities of your actual virtue, and how that will play into whatever's going on in the scenario. So you have all of that going on at the same time, this rich story that you're going through and experiencing and getting to know more about this mystical land that Solomon Kane lives in and is interacting in. So I'll tell you, I am more than excited for this title now. I did back that Kickstarter, and I wish I went in even further than I did now, because after playing that game and getting to sit down, I just, and this is nothing against any videos that were made during the Kickstarter, but I just don't feel like those videos did this game justice. And after, justice, yeah. I got a joke there, and that was a good one. I really just don't think that that game got its real pool to see how that really played out and how much fun that game was. After I've played it, team, I am all in. Woo! We are excited about that one. And I'm going to have to find a way to get every one of those expansions to that game, because that's going to be one that I'm going to be playing for a while. So 2 thumbs up on that one, Mythic Games. You nailed it on Solomon Kane. All right, let's move on to Joan of Arc. Now, Joan of Arc is a legendary scale game. It has the ability to be something that's going to be around for a very, very, very long time. And the reason is because it comes with an expansive amount of miniatures. Those miniatures are at 15 or 16 millimeter scale. They are absolutely gorgeous at their scale. The quality is off the charts at these 16 millimeter scale miniatures. And you would think, generally when you get those really, really tiny, tiny, tiny scaled miniatures, the detail's not there. But I'll tell you, I was going in close on those miniatures to really look at all the little nooks and crannies, and did they do the extra pouches and the belts and the necklaces and things that they would add on top of what was already there, and they absolutely did. And the quality is amazing. I'll tell you, they've set a new standard with this scale in the industry. I haven't seen anybody else do anything like what they have here with this scale. Absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait for these miniatures in this game. It's going to be awesome. And because they went with that legendary scale, that 16 millimeter scale, when you get the castle walls and you get the dragon, you'll see the dragon. I've got pictures of it at the end of this video. This dragon, team, it is huge. I mean, it is like this. The wingspan on this thing is about like that. It's about that wide. I mean, it is absolutely ginormous. And when you put it on the board next to a little NPC or a warrior or some type of character on the board, it looks awesome. So I cannot wait until I get that castle expansion with the castle walls and the catapults, the dragon. It's going to be It's going to be so awesome. So all we did is we sat down and we did a simple skirmish game. English versus French. And it was a standard demo skirmish game. I'll tell you, we had a ton of fun just playing this skirmish game. Now, over to the right of me, we had a table going where they were doing a campaign mode of the game as well, where they were going through more of the story-driven aspect of Joan of Arc. So again, Joan of Arc offers 3 different types of playstyle, which is going to be appealing to a wide audience. One, you have the straight-up miniatures warfare combat skirmish, where you could do all kinds of stuff. Different, light, dark, French, English. I mean, they really gave you in Joan of Arc a very realistic warfare battle, and they also gave you more of a fantasy side for some of the factions that were included in that game. Now, that's going to give you all of that just from a skirmish perspective, and you can even mix and match them together. Or you can set up a full campaign where you're going through a story mode and you're learning about Joan of Arc and what she's experiencing and how she's growing as a character, and that's all designed out in the actual campaign mode. And the campaign mode is fairly expansive, so that's something that I'm really looking forward to get into that campaign mode and be able to play that through as well. Then the third way we can play this game is by solo. So you can actually sit down and solo Joan of Arc. Now, they don't have an expansive amount of stuff that is soloable that will be released initially, but over time, obviously the community, you can come up with your own campaigns, you can come up with your own solo, because it really is a sandbox. I mean, you've got the terrain, you've got the buildings, you've got the miniatures, you've got the trees. The trees are awesome. I love how they did the trees with the green and the brown plastic. Those are awesome. I'm so glad they added those. Really add to the look and feel of the board. All the buildings that they have. Oh, the Good Place Inn. They didn't have it there, but they told me about the size of the Good Place Inn in comparison to some of the other buildings that they did have in the case. And we're actually out on the board when we did our demo. Now, your standard size building would be, about like this, right? Just a standard size little building, maybe about this high, about that big, okay? On the board. So the buildings are pretty good size. They really do scale very well with the 15 millimeter scale or 16 millimeter scale. The Good Place Inn is enormous, guys. It's like this big, okay? And it stands about this tall, all right? It is huge in comparison to the other buildings that are included. So if you were there for the end of that Kickstarter, and when the Good Place Inn got added by Leo, that we got something special, guys, and I can't wait to get those, and we're going to get the Leo sculpts to go with it. Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be so good. So good. We're in a good place with good people, and the Good Place Inn is going to be sweet. Woo! All right, I'm telling you, I am excited about Mythic Games and what they're going to be bringing to us with Solomon Kane. I can't even get it out of my mouth. With Solomon Kane and Joan of Arc, it's going to be absolutely, absolutely awesome. Now, they have a brand new game that is just been released at Gen Con. You'll see pictures of that in the end of this video, and I'll tell you, that game is going to be very cool as well. It's going to be coming to Kickstarter here, coming up soon, and it has this war aspect, like a kind of a World War II aspect feel to it, and there are these big, metal tank mechs that are included in the game. It looks really, really good as well. The miniatures that they had in the case, they had a small amount of miniatures painted up in the case. You will see pictures of those at the end of this video. And that game I'm really interested about as well. I don't know a lot about the gameplay. That one wasn't there to actually demo and get your hands on. They didn't have any prototypes other than just the miniatures that were painted up and were in the glass cases. Now, as soon as we start to learn more about that game, I'm going to try to release some updated content specifically on that game, and we'll see if maybe we can get in to doing a very small prototype edition of that when they go to Kickstarter to help them out with that. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to promise that because I don't know what their plans are specifically, but if we can get our hands on a very small prototype for that new game and help with the Kickstarter and be able to play that, that would be very awesome. It'd be even better if we could do a giveaway, but we'll see, guys. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'm not promising anything, but I will say that game looked very good, only from the miniatures perspective. Again, I have not seen the gameplay, and we did not talk a lot about the gameplay. It was mainly about overarching story of the game, and the miniatures were there. Okay? So, we've taken a look at Solomon Kane and Joan of Arc, both phenomenal games. Check out the pictures we've got here afterwards, and this has been the Mythic Games Spotlight from Gen Con 2018. So click that like, hit the subscribe below to join the team, roll them crits. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time. Fair, let's go!